didn't tell anybody that. All right, hey, this is recording. Welcome, guys, to the Xceleration Fitness Podcast number
21.
On today's show, we have the legend of Xceleration. Yeah, you're officially the legend now. You like that. The always positive guy and one of the biggest transformations, if not the biggest transformation in Xceleration Fitness history, Mr. Jim Clements. So today, guys,
thank you.
Welcome, Jim. Welcome. As always, John Papp and I wanted to say my partner, John Papp and I, but it just feels weird saying my partner.
So, don't say that, Ben.
We're going to ask Jim 7 questions regarding his body weight loss transformation. So you guys listening can get down to how you can get tips from him for your transformation so you guys can lose weight, live a happier life, have more energy, and be a badass. So without further ado, you ready?
I'm ready whenever you are.
All right. Question number 1. These guys are way more prepared than I am. So, John, why don't you take it over to question number 1?
So, first question. So, Jim, why don't you just kind of describe your transformation, just kind of right off the get, the biggest transformation you've had?
Well, it's been, about 2.5 years into the fitness program. Probably the biggest, obviously, has been the weight loss. But, in the last 12 months, I think probably the biggest difference, as the weight had come off and is kind of plateaued. But that's somewhat on purpose in regards to that I was focusing more. I wanted to focus more on gaining strength for a while.
How much weight have you lost since you started 2.5 years ago?
Probably somewhere around 90 pounds if I got on the scale right now.
Pounds. Probably over 90 pounds.
Right in that area. So
hold that thought, because what he just said right there, you guys really need to listen to. Probably around 90 pounds. So the scale is not that important to you now at this point.
No, absolutely not. Before, I would step on the scale literally every day. And I would be concerned if it didn't go down, or even worse, if it went up a little bit, right? And then once you start having conversations with John or Nick or one of the other trainers, and say, hey, you know what? I did everything right the last 3 days, but I gained 2 pounds. What happened? And then you find out there's so many different variables that go into that. But then you realize that your clothes fit different, that you look a little different. You might not look that way to yourself, but then all of a sudden someone you haven't seen in 3 weeks might make a comment to you. And then you realize that, okay, it's not just about that number on the scale.
We can end the podcast right there, man. That's it. That's all I wanted. That
sums it up.
That's golden right there. Okay, so do I have question number 2 here?
Yeah. The failure.
Oh.
What's my biggest failure?
Your biggest failure during your weight loss transformation?
Has been probably staying disciplined with the nutrition. I think it probably goes for everybody that you have your times and your moments where you fall off, but you also realize that you have to get back up and get back on track. So it's okay to stumble. Just don't fall down and stay down. Just make sure you get back up and stay back on track. So it is one of those things where, for me, the biggest failure definitely has been staying on track with my nutrition day in and day out.
Can you give us specifics on it?
Yeah. After the summer last year, before I started working out with John one-on-one, I had definitely fallen off of my nutrition, and I had probably gained about 15, 18 pounds back.
Like over the summer, like July? Yeah,
at the end of the summer. So we're looking at end of July, August, football season rolled around. Right. So now, we were doing more of the weekend stuff with my son playing. So
yeah, that was a busy time in your life, right? I mean, that's when Zach was going to school? Or?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you were getting ready for that.
Right. So, and then you're, all of a sudden every weekend you're spending away at a football game somewhere. So
for people listening out there, can you describe what your family situation is? You had the daughters, the son, kind of give them the little insight on where you're at in your life, how old your kids are, that kind of.
Well, married for 27 and a half years, 3 kids.
That's older than John.
I know.
That is older than me.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
But it's all right. It happens. But no, my oldest daughter, Nicole, is a graduate student at George Washington University. So living in Washington, D.C. with my other daughter, Katie, who's an undergrad there at George Washington. And then my son, who's a freshman playing football at Saginaw Valley State.
And not to take too much away from yours, because this podcast is about you, but I just want the listeners out there to know about Zach and the daughter. I mean, your daughters are freaking awesome. Just your whole family. It's such a every time you guys step in the gym, you guys are all smiling, all positive. You don't really smile, but the rest of your family does. But your son, Zach, is just a remarkable story because the way you coached him as a dad and not another coach, it was really cool for all of us to see at Xceleration because his son, Zach, would come to us 3 to 4 days a week, working his ass off. I think it's safe to say he wasn't really highly recruited, right?
Correct. Yeah, he wasn't. He's a kicker punter, but he had talent, but he was basically self-taught. And then when we realized that, okay, he has this ability, so we had to go find him a coach. And so we did some research, and one was recommended. And so he started working out with a guy out of Buffalo, going to his camps and working with him. And he's obviously progressed and got to the point that he was, able to play college football, which is what his dream was, is to make sure to get to that level. So he went from being a chubby little kid who played center and defensive tackle to being a kicker and a punter by the time he graduated high school.
And the coolest story was how he went to that kicking contest with NFL players, right?
There was 2 NFL free agents that were there that he won.
That he beat. So here's a kid who's not recruited, who's not like in the limelight, not this, 5-star athlete, just a hardworking kid. And he goes to this competition, and Jim's texting me. He's like, he just beat this guy, NFL prospects he's beating, and yet he's not getting recruited. But his hard work and all that stuff he did behind the scenes is why he's successful now. So awesome. Let's get back to Jim Clements, though. I could talk about Zach all day. Sorry.
So could I. All my kids. So.
Yeah, all your kids are great.
And before we move on, too, what about your wife? Leslie's had quite
She's amazing, and you guys are here doing a podcast with me, and to be honest, it probably should be her. She's obviously fairly quiet, as you guys know, but she is a machine. She's embraced this fitness road that we went down together. Obviously, I needed it much, much more than she has, but she's done tremendous, and her transformation and the way she looks, and heck, she's running 5Ks with me, and she doesn't ever even run. The only time she ever runs is when we go do a 5K. So, for someone that can go out there and just say, okay, walk to the starting line, and, 29 minutes later, she's done. So,
and how much did she lose when she first started?
I'm not certain, but I think she's probably somewhere around between 25 and 30 pounds in that area. But probably her biggest transformation has been her body fat percentage. Yeah. I think she has lost more body fat percentage than she has pounds.
Yeah, I believe it.
So it's pretty close, I think.
Yeah. So you guys both came to the gym together, both needed a change, and you went through it as a couple. And for the people listening out there, just imagine the first 2 months of them coming here. Obviously, the workouts were tough for them. You had to kind of talk them through it, stay motivated, keep doing this. And then all of a sudden, within 2 months, you walk in the door and you find out that Leslie, was it a 7-minute plank or? I'll never forget the day, man.
Well, I know that she's gone as long as 15 minutes.
15-minute plank.
So,
and all that was is both of you guys have this like mental toughness about you that, especially Leslie, she was an Olympic speed skater. Am I right?
No, she was a competitive roller skater.
But skater. Okay.
So, but yeah, she was national champion twice.
That's awesome.
So
both of you guys, though, just the work ethic you guys have. It's not like you guys came into the gym with like this special recipe of like, how are you going to lose this weight? Like, you lost 90 pounds. She lost all this body fat. It was just straight up hard work. It was like pushing through plateaus. It was, for me to see it, it was, honestly, it's an honor. So,
well, a lot of the credit goes to everyone in the gym, because it was, not just the trainers, but a lot of the people out on the floor as well, that were right next to you during the workouts. Because, that knowledge had to come from somewhere, right? Somebody had to show us what we needed to do.
And I think that's a big thing for anyone who's going through, just starting on the journey or starting, going through this is, find people who are out there that have done it before or are also going through it and ask questions. They're more than willing, almost in 99% of the cases, to help you and like to sit down for 5 minutes and say, hey, this is what I did, or this is what I did in this situation. Here's what I use, and it'll go a long ways.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you find the right environment, the right gym, the right people that go to that gym, then I think you can pretty much ask anybody anything, and they'll be honest and they'll be open and they'll be more than willing to share, any tips, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. Because that's always a lot of big key too, what didn't work, because what works for someone may not work for somebody else.
Exactly. Well, speaking of tips, that's probably why people are listening. So how about John and I shut up and everyone just listens to the gym? What's the next question here?
All right. So if you could describe the best advice for someone who's starting a fitness journey, but only in one sentence, what would it be?
In one sentence, I would say, make sure you take that first step.
Take the first step. Perfect.
And by that, I mean, if you know that this is what you want to do, then make sure that you take that first step, find that right gym if you're planning on joining a gym, or if you're going to work with a personal trainer, whatever that is, but make sure you take that first step, because if you never take that first step, you're never going to go down that path.
What was that first step for you before you took the step? Like, what was going through your mind?
One is I knew I was overweight and I knew I was out of shape. Right. But we went a long time without ever doing anything about it.
How long?
Probably it had to be close to 10 years.
Holy, I thought you were going to say a couple months.
No. It was probably 10 years. And then you finally realize that I really need to do something. As you know, I didn't even email you till the night before I was going to come in. So it was probably 14 hours before I walked through that door. So it truly was like a last minute thing, but it really wasn't. It was a long drawn out, I need to do this. And then finally the light bulb clicks on, and then you have to take that first step and you got to walk through that door.
There's probably people listening to this that have done this for 10 years and maybe they're not able to take that first step just like you were. What was it? What made you start the car, get in, drive here, meet with me, and do it?
Really just wanting to be overall healthy. You realize that, I was going to go down that path of heart disease. I was going to go down that path of become a diabetic. All those things that will obviously shorten your life tremendously. And, as my kids started to get older and you see that now they're becoming adults and that you want to be around for, your grandkids, you want to see your kids grow and become, adults, be successful in life, but you want to be there for that. And, you don't want to have that tragic ending. So that was, the motivation to say, okay, we need to take this step. And, luckily for me, my wife was one that was willing to take that step with me. That was a huge thing for me. Mm-hmm. It's not that that's, for everybody. But it was one thing for me that, having her by my side was huge.
That's awesome, man. That's good. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah. Next question. So kind of looking back over things, what was the most worthwhile investment, whether it be time, money, energy, whatever it was that kind of, helped the most?
Time, I think, was the most most worthwhile investment. You can have all the money in the world, right? But if you don't invest the time into doing it, it's not going to matter. You're not going to be healthy, right? True. So you have to make time for yourself. You have to, and a lot of people say, well, I'm really, really busy. I really don't have time to go to the gym for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, or I can't go out and, go run a couple miles, whatever. You can. You just have to make sure that you manage your time wisely. And if you're able to do that, and trust me, when you start down that, I mean, I feel bad now when I don't come to the gym. I feel like something is wrong in my day, but I think time is definitely the biggest investment.
I agree. Let's dive into that. When you first started, did you feel like you're giving up a lot of time? And the question after that is, did your schedule adapt to you over time?
I'll answer the second one first. Yes, my schedule definitely adapted to me in regards to how I work my day. So I was able to, say, okay, I can go at this time, no problem. I can adjust everything else in my day. What was your first question again? I'm sorry.
Well, I screw my first question. Let's go with the second one. What were you doing in the 10 years where you were debating on coming here? What was your schedule like then? Was it wake up and just eat breakfast and go to work?
Yeah. And a lot of times it wasn't even eat breakfast, right? I mean, that was, I eat breakfast literally almost every single day now. Mm-hmm. I used to hardly ever eat breakfast. My eating habits, one, weren't consistent and they weren't good. I guess they were consistent. They were consistently bad. But they, I would eat at different odd times, and I wouldn't eat breakfast. And then all of a sudden I'm eating an earlier lunch and a later dinner, and then not eating healthy foods at the same time. And then when I was traveling and on the road, I was never eating healthy. It didn't seem like.
Would you say that was due to your career and your job or your kids, or just what was how the priorities change?
I wouldn't want to blame it on anything in regards to my schedule, because you can always adjust all that, right? I don't need to roll through a fast food joint and get something to eat on my way to a baseball game or on my way to football practice or to pick up my girls at dance class or drop them off. I can prepare something long, before that and have it ready and take it with me, right?
What's your go-to for that?
To have it with me on the go. Usually it is fruits and vegetables as snacks.
Beautiful.
So
easy. Grab it now, right?
Right. Yeah. It's it's
simple.
ready. It's right there. It's simple. Obviously if I'm, going to have a meal, it'll probably be some sort of grilled chicken salad that's prepared and ready to go.
Like a Tupperware.
Yeah.
Pull it out.
Yep.
Perfect. I mean, this is just really interesting here because let's face it, guys. John, Pap, and I have not experienced this yet. Now, John, how old are you?
20, almost 24.
24. I just turned 30. I'm not at the level where your kids are. My wife and I just talked about the car, actually. He's like, what the hell are we going to do when we have 3 kids playing sports and you got whatever, choir, you're driving around? Do you think it's really easy for adults to get caught up in all that stuff and just forget about health and fitness?
Oh, absolutely.
And go 10 years without thinking about it?
Absolutely it is. Obviously having 3 kids that were all within 5 years of one another, going, you got to get girls to dance class, or you got to get them to cheerleading practice. And then you got to get, like Zach, we had to get to baseball or football, right? So not only were we going in 2 different directions a lot of the times with them, but you always seem to be on the go, right? Well, then what happens is once we started the fitness journey, and now granted my kids were a little older when we started this, so Nikki was even driving, so we didn't really have to worry about getting her somewhere. But you learn to manage your time. You learn that, we could do all those things and still have eat healthy, even on the go a little bit, eating healthy. And then if we did have to eat out, we made smart choices when we ate out. We weren't rolling through, a fast food restaurant and, picking up something there.
Which is very easy to do. And I think very hard to get out of the habit of doing.
Absolutely. Convenience for a lot of people makes it easy, right? Because it's there, it's quick, most of the time it's fairly tasty, right? And that's what they care about. They're not thinking about, how unhealthy it actually is for you.
Yeah. I think it goes back to what made you drive here when you were debating on whether or not to do your fitness. And that's the grandkids, that's the diabetes, that's all those kind of conditions you can't reverse. That's what you need to think about when you're doing these fast food meals. And another thing people can think about too, you guys listening out there, if you really think about it, say it's a Thursday night, you don't have dinner ready, you can get takeout, and that sounds so easy because there's no dishes. You just got to drive there, go pick it up, and it's going to be good. If you really do the math, it probably takes you 20 minutes to prepare a good, healthy meal. But if you do takeout, it's probably 20 minutes to wait, then at least a 15-minute ride, then you wait in traffic. So you're looking at 45 minutes, and you have something that's way less healthy that's not going to put years on your life compared to the 20-minute healthy meal that you could prepare very easily and be satisfied.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And on that note too, if it's just one of those days where you're like, screw this, I'm not making anything. Like, there are good choices. Like, you could go to Whole Foods, depending on where you are, and walk in and they have a giant, prepared food section that's already made. Like, literally you just walk up, pick what you want, and it's all healthy stuff. The options are there. Even a Meijer or Kroger.
Well, do you guys know about Costco and Kroger doing that little I forgot what it's called, but you can put your order in, then go pick it up. You don't get in the car.
Yeah, right. 100%. Yeah. I mean, you could do that. Order all healthy foods. Boom, you're there.
Right.
Yeah. Faster than fast food, probably.
It's gonna be a game changer.
All right, moving on. So what what behavior was the toughest for you to kind of break or resist, while you were going through the first initial part of it?
Probably the worst habit would be the nutrition, was because, we changed immediately. So it was kind of a cold turkey change, but that was probably the hardest thing because your schedule was still somewhat the same, right? So you're still running around all the time. So the time to running somebody to, practice or something, okay, let me run through here and grab something to eat. Well, now you're not doing that anymore, right? So that's why it was important to make sure that you had something ready to go with you so you didn't do that. So probably the hardest thing was definitely changing the eating habits. It wasn't walking in the gym. It wasn't, even though the workouts were hard, that wasn't the hardest part. I think the hardest part was the
easiest part, really.
I think so, right? Because one, you had people right there with you doing it, and
it's such a small portion of the day. It's an hour when you have 23 hours of potential to either do really good or really bad.
Right, absolutely.
Goes back to the thing you talked about, taking that first step. Do you think that doing these awesome, tough workouts, did it make you more susceptible to eating healthy? Did you feel like, I don't want to waste this workout if I eat fast food, or did that not exist for you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that was, you do all this work and you don't want it to go to waste by all of a sudden eating really bad because, as you say, you can never outwork a bad diet.
Exactly. Right.
So, you put all this effort into it, and then you can turn around and just ruin it by, every night going home and eating something that's not healthy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
All right. So what is something that maybe you've heard related to, health, fitness, working out, nutrition, that you kind of disagree with? Maybe it's a bad recommendation.
I was thinking about this, and I think probably the biggest thing is, when you'll hear people say, well, I need to quit snacking in between my meals.
Yeah.
If I want to lose weight.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's the opposite, right? I mean, as long as you're eating clean, you want to have those snacks.
Yeah.
Right. So, doesn't matter what it is, it's a handful of almonds, you're eating some fruit or vegetables, you're something along those lines.
Did you find that you were eating more once you came to us, or less?
More.
Let me just repeat that question. When you came to us for a weight loss transformation, did you find yourself eating more or less?
More.
That is the biggest, you nailed it on the head, man. The biggest misconception is I can't eat past, 7 o'clock at night. Definitely can't do that because that's really bad. Like, who told you that? You know what I mean? What did you focus on nutrition wise? What were the main key things that you did focus on?
Well, obviously, eating clean, right? So learning from you guys in regards to, what you should eat, the types of foods, knowing, good carbs versus bad carbs, good fats versus bad fats, that type of information, and, making sure that you track that stuff. So, what you had. I know Mike Wise was really great about that. And he would put in his Fitness Pal in the morning everything he was going to eat that day. So it wasn't like he was doing it as he was eating it or after he was done.
Planned it out.
Right. So he had it planned, and this is what I'm going to eat. And he stuck to that. And that's, if you can do it, it's not for everybody to do it that way, but if you can do it, that's a great way to go about doing it.
Now, how long did it take before you didn't have to track everything? I'm curious.
Probably I would probably say about 3 or 4 months where I felt comfortable enough to where I didn't have to track everything. Yeah. But it was still always an education, right? Because you think something is good for you.
But then you
realize, oh, well, that's not as good as what I thought it would be, right?
Or maybe it is, but not in the quantity that you would normally eat.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
For the listeners out there, what did you use to track your food? What are you talking about tracking your food?
Well, tracking it with like MyFitnessPal.
From your phone.
Yeah. So, you can put just about anything in there. And if it's not already in there, you can scan the barcode and it'll give you all the nutrition information. Yeah. So
you could literally scan everything you eat in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. And, part of it was, learning some of the things that I would have never have thought about, right? Yeah, you look at the carbs and you look at the protein and you look at the sugar and you look, oh, that's fine. And then you realize, wait a minute, 3 months later, I've been eating this and I realize it's really high in sodium.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the cool part is like, first you focus on the basics And once you kind of get that dialed in, then you notice all the other little things like, like you said, the sodium, the fiber, all the vitamins and minerals in it too. And it's really cool because you can see those things and then you start to pay attention to those.
Right. Absolutely.
And it all goes back to quality of food, making sure the quality of food is like top notch.
Right.
I think we're getting down to something with this next question will help too, is priorities. But let me ask the question. When you fall off track, when you feel like unfocused, when you feel like shit's just going bad, what's the reset button for you? What do you do?
My reset button is my support group around me. Obviously, my wife and my family are first, right? I mean, they'll, always say something to me, hey, you know what? You really want to have that?
Yeah.
We have our group, our little, we call our poo group, and we keep ourselves in check with one another. There's 7 of us, and it definitely helps when you feel like eating something, you just shoot out a message and then someone will reply back and give you something positive to get you through that. Or if you're just having one of those days, right? And someone will definitely reply back and kind of pick you up. So I think probably the most important for me is making sure you have that support group around you. It helps me get right back on track. So it's not, if you fall off, it's not a lengthy fall.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just community.
Having community and people around you.
Jim, do you remember when you first started and you had like a business trip somewhere and you text me like all your meals and like even on the plane you text me the food? I vividly remember that. And I was like, yeah, eat this. Yeah, eat this. And then I think you figured out like within a week, wow, Ben's not that smart. This is actually pretty easy.
Right. Yeah. Well, part of it is it's like anything else in life. If you're not educated on it, right? I mean, not that it's overly difficult, but you have to educate yourself on it. And it's just part of, I wasn't educated on it. So I didn't know.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say, hey, am I good with this? Or, is this okay? And, make sure you get the thumbs up to say, yeah, that's a good choice, or hey, that's not such a good choice.
Mm-hmm. That's big. So recapping the transformation of Jim Clements, you were how old?
51.
51 years old. So you were 49 when you started this?
Yes.
49 when you started this. Since then, since you made that, well, let's back up a little bit. 10 years before his transformation, he was doing what? Nothing for fitness. He was always debating on his health, always thinking about it. You finally took that first step, came in, and since then you've dropped how many pounds? 90 plus?
Correct.
And you've kept it off. And I'm just trying to recap for the listeners out there to really take what he did. He educated himself. He used the trainers. He used the community, his friends, his family. But if you could think of the most important thing in your transformation, what do you think that is?
The most important.
I think I know it, but this is you.
I think my most important part of my transformation has been my wife.
Bam. That's exactly what I was going to say. That is the coolest thing for us, because for you guys listening out there, and you've never met Jim, maybe you've never met the Clements family, but I said it from the beginning of this podcast. They're always positive, always smiling, always just uplifting people. But what we've been able to see as trainers, the most special thing in the world to us, why we wake up and do our job, is Jim lost the weight. Jim transformed his life. Leslie lost the weight. Leslie transformed her life. It trickles down. Their son is a college football player now. Their daughters are in college. They're focusing. They're working out at gyms now. They're doing all this stuff. So it's just all that started from you putting the keys in the car, driving, and signing up for the challenge after the deadline was already over, and I let you in.
Correct.
That's amazing. I mean, it's truly amazing to see. So hopefully the people listening to this out there, you guys know it doesn't matter how bad you think you are. You haven't worked out in 5+ years. You guys can make a change. You guys can get results even faster than you ever imagined. And this is living proof of it right here.
There we go.
Yeah. Anything else before we go, Jim?
If you're thinking about going down that path, take that first step, chase it.
Exactly. I mean, look at you. You're wearing Lululemon now. You got Nikes on.
That's one thing about Nikes.
Oh, I know. One thing about
shoe,
yes,
man.
This is a shoe, man. I'm going to show you guys my favorite shoe that I've ever worn. And Jim Clements bought these for me. And he had them on. So the guy's got some tight shoe game.
But I didn't wear them today.
No, you didn't. Well, you got some nice Jordans on, though. John, shout-outs of the week.
Yes. We didn't talk about this previously.
We didn't. Did we plan this? Shout-outs of the week, guys.
Come on. What is that?
I'm going to give a shout-out to she's a member because she does chase it with us all the time, but she's also the glue of this place. Kim Piccioni. She set up prom last week. I mean, worked countless hours setting everything up. She just ran a little kid's Easter egg hunt, but she works out 5-6 days a week. Kim, hopefully you're listening to this. This is a big test for you because if you don't mention this on Monday, you're in trouble. But that's my shout out of the week right there.
There we go.
All right, guys.
Do I get a shout out?
Yeah.
Shout out away.
Actually, Rochelle Diaz.
Okay.
Because
we approve.
I'm telling you, she's quiet. She doesn't say a whole lot, but unbelievable. So she definitely is working hard, and she's transformed her body. Yeah. It is unreal.
Rochelle, for those of you who don't know, Rochelle is a member here at the gym, and she is training for her first show, show coming up here, next month?
Yeah, it's like 5 weeks away.
She's a mom of 3. I mean, her body looks amazing, but just like Jim said, dude, she crushes it in class. Crushes it. I trained her at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, I think. And, yeah, she can definitely outwork John Papp. That's for sure. Anything conditioning-wise, she'll beat his ass. Shout out to Rochelle Diaz, guys. Thank you, Jim Clements. I would mention his social media handles where you can find him, but that's not him. He's not on social media. But you can find him running the streets. He's doing 5Ks now. And you can find him at the gym.
There we go.
Chase it, guys.